Hello everyone, welcome to Ceratec's webinar, What's New in Femap 11.3. Your presenter today will be Violet. She is one of our engineers and her specialty is Femap. We will open up the chat box for questions at the end of the webinar, so please wait till then to ask any questions that you might have. You will also have the option to download the webinar on demand whenever you want it. Please let us know if you wanted to do that. You can email us at support@ceratecinc.com or contact us at the phone number on the screen. We will be more than happy to give you a recording to watch at a later time. I hope you enjoy your webinar.
Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on what's new in Femap version 11.3. My name is Violet Mayan and I'm an application engineer at Ceratec. Femap 11.3 came out at the end of April and beginning of May, and we actually are ready to roll out any download and license files that our customers need. So if any of our customers are on the webinar, please feel free to go ahead and email us at support@ceratecinc.com, and we'll be happy to send out any of the files and or license that you may need. Femap with this version is still going with its usual direction to make sure that they are creating a modeling environment that's dedicated to FEA, and they are adding functionality that is required to accurately model any real-world parts and assemblies. And they have added a lot of customer-driven features, anything that any of our customers have asked for. A lot of the times they try to go ahead and add some of those functionalities as well. Today we'll be talking about some of the new things that they've added in pre and post processing, in meshing and solver support, and even some performance changes that they have made. So let's go ahead and without further ado start with the first and one of my favorite ones actually. The very first functionality is in pre-processing, and this is the new toolbar for draw erase, sometimes called plot erase or on or off toolbar, and it's a brand new toolbar, and it basically allows you to access mesh and geometry and turn them on and off a lot quicker, and it'll allow you to draw erase entities, and the entities will remain in that state until the toolbar is cleared. You can go ahead and toggle back and forth between the things that you have drawn and erased, and grow the area or shrink the area, and even later on go ahead and create groups in order to access these later. And we can go ahead and let's go ahead and take a look at this in an example model. Let's go ahead and look at this link post model. The draw erase toolbar is the one here, as you can see, and in order for us to use it we have to make sure that it is on, and green means go, and you have various things you can choose from, so you can select to choose elements, properties, or materials, and even connections or coordinate systems if you have any. So I'm going to go ahead and select elements, and I'll get an entity selection toolbar, and I can go ahead and select some of the things that I want to erase since I'm on erase right now, and I'm just going to choose the this much of the model, and I'm going to say OK, and you'll see that it'll go ahead and erase this part of my model. And I can toggle on between draw and erase, so if I want to go ahead and only draw that part, I can do that as well. And if I want to go ahead and I mentioned the grow shrink capabilities, I can grow the area that I chose or shrink it. And really just view this model or only a part of it, and this is even useful during post-processing because you can go ahead and view your results and what's happening inside as well, because you can get rid of some of the stuff that you don't want to see. And then once I'm done using the capability, I can go ahead and clear or erase whatever I have chosen, and I will get back to my original model. Other capabilities also allow you to link the geometry and mesh. So if you want to turn off geometry, all the associated mesh will turn off as well. And you can also go ahead and save what you are viewing into a group and use it for a later time, and even load a group into the draw erase toolbar. They have added some new rotation options in Femap 11.3. So now you can specify a coordinate system you want to rotate about. So you can choose your X, Y, Z of any coordinate system and rotate about that, which basically allows you to rotate the model around a local axis. And you can see in the options, the first two were already in 11.3. So they have added the rotate around view axis, which is the screen, and rotate around model axis, which is the global coordinate system, as well as rotate around coordinate system, which I just mentioned, and rotate around vector, which is the same as rotate around rotation axis in 11.2. There are also some fundamental changes in the way you can rotate the model in Femap. In the previous version, you would pick a rotation point or rotate about the view center, which would cause the model to move off of your screen when you're rotating. So in order to fix this, a new rotate around a cursor method has been introduced, and when the command is enabled, a point in the model closest to the position of the cursor is the point around which the model will rotate. This means when you're zoomed in and doing detailed work close on a certain part, you have a better control of the view method, so your model doesn't move off of your screen. So you can see that it rotates around the position that I'm clicking my cursor, and we can turn this on in File, Preferences, and User Interface. It's the dynamic rotate around cursor location. Similarly, they have added a dynamic zoom around cursor location, which was the option right above, and this will allow you to zoom in and out of your model around the cursor where the mouse wheel is scrolled instead of the center of the view. So let's say if you chose to zoom in that location, you would go ahead and put your cursor around that location, and when you're zooming, you would be able to zoom closer to that location instead of the center of the view. The roll through option is also a new option, and this will allow you to zoom into your model and get into your model and view things from the inside. In previous versions of Femap and many other pre and post processing tools, when you zoom into a model, you just get closer and closer to an entity. And you can see this here. The closer I get, I just get closer to my element and never go inside the model. So what they have done is they have added a roll through option, and roll through allows you to view inside of your model and even look behind so you can get into the model and look and see what's behind you. And this greatly aids the visualization, as you can view the interior of the model without getting into creating views or groups. This is also helpful when you're viewing results, because you can now view results and get into your model and see inside your model and see the deformation as you're viewing your results. Femap has also added some more support for the touch interface, and this is including panning and zooming. It really works almost the same way as you would use a smartphone. So you have the option to zoom in and out and rotate around the Z-axis. A new dockable pane, which is accessed via the Tools Connection Editor command, will allow you to manage and or edit a large number of connections using an intuitive table control, like you can see here. So from here, you can really look at all the connections in your model and change their property, change the master and target, master and slave options, as well as really highlight them in your model and view where they are. It just makes looking at your connections in your model much simpler, and as I said, you can go ahead and access this by going into Tools Connection Editor. A face picking command prompt has been added, and this will automatically load currently displayed elements as possible entities to pick from. And it's really used a lot with the draw erase toolbar, as it's very useful. Usually in Femap 11.2, when we had to select a bunch of faces or element faces, it became very difficult, especially when there was no geometry associated with that mesh, and hence we had to go and pick elements, and that would pick elements behind the ones that we were choosing. And this command prompt really just helps to go ahead and kind of deal with that. And it comes up when we select entities. So in the entity editor, if we select it by faces, this is the command prompt that comes up, and you can see that it allows you to choose from the elements that are visible, and hence you can, as I said, use the draw erase toolbar, get rid of some of the stuff that you don't want in your model, and then go ahead and you grab the elements that you want, and then we go ahead and choose one face, and what it'll do is it'll choose all the connected faces that associated with that element, and hence this makes your workflow a lot easier, and it makes selecting elements a lot quicker than before, when we had to kind of create groups and navigate from one to another in order to just select the ends of a certain element, use them as connections or for any other reason. The new group operations generate visible command is the command that I mentioned to be used with the draw erase toolbar, and what it'll do is it'll automatically create a group containing only the entities which are currently visible in the active view. So if I have a model which looks like this, I can go into group operations and generate visible, and I can just name this group. And you can see that once I go and activate it, it will include all of the visible elements and entities that were on the screen, and this includes nodes and any boundary conditions if this had any. And this is really useful because you don't have to go ahead and select add related entities if you're doing this, because you know that all your nodes and constraints have come in as well. In the group operations command, there's also a generate element type, and what this will do is it'll create a new group automatically with each individual element type, and you can see it'll give you groups that look like this, where it'll create groups out of the lines and quads and tets and everything that you have, and create a specific group for each. A couple other things that have been added in pre-processing are this is just a new on-the-fly calculation for cross-section property values and other useful feedback to the cross-section defining dialog box. So when you're creating a property, now you have cross-section input help, as you can see here, and then once you create that cross-section, you'll get immediate feedback for basic cross-sectional information. And if you go ahead and click the button right here, it'll compute all the properties for you, and you can go ahead and you can see it'll calculate moment of inertia and so on. And then if you want to go ahead and export this out for a report on a clipboard or as a picture, you can go ahead and do that as well. And this is true for both Nastran shapes as well as any custom shapes that you create. Now you can go ahead and label certain groups by themselves without having to label all your entities on your model. And in order to do this, you would go into the visibility command prompt, and you can do this by going to view visibility, or I believe control Q. And in the group options, you can see that there's a new label section, and here if you choose label single group and choose the group that you want, you can go ahead and only label that group. So if we want to see an example of this, we can look at the same model that we're working with. So if we go into view visibility and we go into groups, I can go ahead and label, let's say, only the new group that I created. And if I turn off my view and I look at my full model, and I can turn on my labels, and now you can see that it'll only go ahead and show my labels for the group that I created. And I think this is a pretty handy tool because beforehand we had to create an API in order to do this. There's a fast pick visible option that is in the File Preferences graphics window, and this will allow you to only pick the front face of an element instead of all the stuff that comes behind it. So this really works in single pick as well as box, circle, and polygon and so on. And it's a useful tool when you're trying to select elements without any geometry associations. And finally, we do have some unique property icons created, and I believe this was one of a customer request, and really they wanted different property types to have unique icons, and now you can see that they've created a nice little organizational way of having icons for each property type, and only properties which are appropriate for a current element type are now available to choose from in your property, which is just helpful and really allows you to move things a little bit faster. There's a renumber all options, and this is in modify renumber. It'll say all, and this will really allow you to use renumber any combination of entity types in your model, including all entity types, with a single command. And really there are some other things that are added as well, but for time's sake I think we'll move forward and we'll go into meshing and see some of the new things that were added in meshing. There's a new mesh quads option in mesh geometry surface command, and when enabled it'll attempt to minimize the amount of triangles created when using the quad mesher. And you can see the distinction between these two. The first one was created without the mesh quads option, and the second mesh was with, and you can see that all the triangles were really removed. Mesh quad combined with quad layers provides maximum mesh customization and flexibility, and you can also have internal element growth, which is now available with quad meshes as well. There is a new algorithm for highly curved surfaces, and you can see this is kind of the mesh that we would get in 11.3, and really they've just bettered their algorithm for smoothing meshes around a highly curved surface. And in 11.3 you can really get something that looks much nicer like this, and there's nothing to do here when it comes to users. It's just an internal algorithm that has been bettered. Another one of my favorites is this interactive mesh refine, and this is in mesh editing element refine, and we'll do a little demo of this. What this allows you to do is you can interactively select elements to refine and create automatic transition to surrounding elements. So for example, something like this, you can go ahead and connect these two meshes by using the interactive mesh. So if we look at this model, and we can see that these two meshes don't align. In order to go ahead and fix this, what we can do is go into, actually I think this one might be edited, but for demo purposes, let's go ahead and go into mesh editing, and this is the element refine option, and you can see you get an element refine command prompt, and you can choose the element, and it'll go ahead and connect them to its coincident meshes. You can even go ahead and box all of these up, and really just refine some of the meshes that you have. I pick the back ones as well. But really, you get the idea. What it really allows you to do is it'll allow you to connect meshes. And I know that I've spent hours and hours trying to connect meshes, so I think that this is a really good addition. So now let's look at some solver support additions. The first one is the Nastran results enhancement, and this is an added track revision option on the results tab, and you get here if tab of the file preferences, which when enabled will basically designate each output set with a nastran subcase ID, and this was really just added in order to be able to track your revisions. And when additional output sets are created by importing or attaching to a nastran output file, a new output set which corresponds to the subcase ID already designated on the existing output set will be marked with a revision number. So for example, output set 1 it will be case ID 100 and revision 0, and output set 2 would be case ID 200 revision 0, and output set 3 would be case 100 with revision 1. And you can see that this is, you have revisions next to your analysis studies. When it comes to nastran results enhancement, there's also a nastran element quality check, and this is just an interactive nastran aspect ratio check for linear and parabolic plate elements added. So basically it's going to be doing the same quality checks that nastran will do, but now it's available in Femap as well. There is an added nastran C frequency response enhancement. Prior to this, a lot of the times what we would have to do is create functions in order to create frequency 1 cards and frequency cards, and really now there's an update on how solution frequencies are defined for a frequency response and random response in your analysis set manager. So it's this solution frequencies tab, and you can see that you have the option to select what frequency card you want to create, and the new tab will allow you to go ahead and just input your desired nastran format instead of actually trying to figure out how to do it in the Femap interface. And you can see that it'll go ahead and it'll output them in your DAT file the way that nastran would do it. Some small addition, they have added a spring damper to ground element. Again, in Femap 11.2, this was not available. However, if you wanted to ground anything, you would have to create some arbitrary node and attach your element to that. Now they've just added the option to be able to do it with less clicks, so you can just select it to be a spring damper to ground element, and you don't have to create an extra node in order to do that. Some new additions in the solver launch control. This is in File Preferences Solver, and they have configured this to be able to this is where you configure your Femap to be able to run multiple solvers. Prior to 11.3, we would have to tell customers to change their environment variables, and basically the development team just decided to include it in Femap, so it's a little bit easier for our customers to get to. So here you can add any additional solvers that you can add multiple solver support in here, and then once you are creating the analysis set, you have the option to choose the linked solver and go ahead and use that. In the nastran executed fun solution options, there's also some additions. One of them is the additional command line access, and this basically allows to add additional command lines, and some of our customers want to give different command options for each run. So this is the available option now, and this is something that actually we have been asking for, so it's really good to see it on here. Some additional GPU control options and more are expected to become available, and this really allows you to give different GPU computing and really specify which part of your model you want this to be given to. And really these are the most important ones that we think are new additions in 11.3. And now let's go ahead and look at one of the main post-processing additions, and that is the arrow plots. And the arrow plots are added, and they're called the contour arrow icon in the post-processing toolbar. And in addition, now the contour vector command has been completely overhauled in 11.3, and as this contour arrows is what has taken its place, and it really works the same way as the contour vectors and really used for the same purpose. And it allows for automatic vector selection, so basically the user will specify a single contour vector and Femap will automatically select appropriate output vectors to display, as well as the correct orientation for relevant elements. And you can see that your contour arrows will look something like this on the screen, and it'll really it's useful to show on the fly transformations, and this is for nodal, shell, and solid results. It also has individual component display, so it'll basically display individual components, and these can be selected to be turned on or off without having to reselect vectors. There is different stylings for all the arrows, and they're based on the selected output vector. You can go ahead and manually change this if you want to. However, usually when you select an output vector, Femap will go ahead and automatically decide which one it thinks is best for that output. So it obviously has some generic way of giving a certain arrow to certain output sets, and this is an example of an automatic styling, so you can see that for beam axial and shear stresses, it'll give the arrows like this. Another cool thing in here is, let's say if we had wanted an output vector of the total deformation, we would get something like this. However, if we wanted to go ahead and look at T1, T2, and T3, what it would do is it would give you these small pink arrows, at least pink in this model, and really automatically pair them to the matching components and show them as individual components. Here's another one showing the shear resultant displays and really just showing you how it's going to display these results. And finally, you can go ahead and output all of these listings. So when doing automatic vector selection, you can go into list, output, contour results to data table, and what it'll do is it'll go ahead and put all of these results into your data table. And from the data table, all these results will remain sortable, and you can highlight them and view them, and really just easier way for you to go ahead and be able to summarize your output listings. Since 11.2, in 11.3 there has been more support for glue and contact, and it's been added for free bodies as well. So basically it minimizes what the user has to do in order to view free bodies for glue and contact. So before we had to put the reverse of the normal summation in order to get good plots for contact and glue, and now basically this support just eliminates that need. And finally, let's look at the enhanced support for analysis study, and this is a quick way to create new data series directly from the model info tree, and it's called the plot study command. So this is a context sensitive menu for analysis study, as I said, in the model info tree, and it allows to quickly plot translations, accelerations, or nodal temperatures versus an output set or an output set value in your model. And now let's go in and look at an example of the contour arrows and see how that works. And our time's almost up, but I really want to show that, so let's move in and look at that for a second. So if we look at this wing post model that we have been doing all our demos on, your contour vectors are your contour arrows, excuse me. So this is going to be in post-processing, where your contour vectors are now contour arrows, and you can see that they give a plot that looks something like this. And as I mentioned, if we wanted to see total translation, this is kind of what it looks like. And if we wanted to go ahead and now look at T1, T2, or T3, what it does, and let me get a little bit closer, is it'll give you the components of that total deformation, and those are represented by these little arrows right here. And there are some customizable options. You can go ahead and change your arrowhead and color to different arrows. You can, and this is usually chosen by Femap and it's automatic for all the output sets, but if this is something that you want to go ahead and change, you can. And really, this is just a basic overview of what the contour arrow does, and I would suggest anybody who's getting Femap 11.3 to go ahead and look at this a little bit more and try to see what you can find and what you really like. And finally, let's move on and show some of the just talk a little bit about some of the performance options. Basically, there's some specific customer issues that were addressed. Nastran XDB attachment, the composite element results are now much faster. The Femap sets, so this is the API FE set object. Again, this has been made faster, and also the expanding pressure loads have really just become a lot faster, and these were just a little bit of like customer issues that they decided to go ahead and fix. And finally, there have been some performance graphic updates as well, and really the more that we get our performance graphics for our machines get better, the more the Femap development team works to keep Femap updated. And now our B2s and 3s, our splines are all drawn with performance graphics, including their degrees of freedom of labels. Same deal with contour style, deform style, and just a little note that performance graphics are temporarily disabled when an unsupported command is used. So you don't. I think what would happen before in 11.2 was if your performance graphics were sometimes turned on and you were using something that wasn't supported, some customers had issues, and now it just disables performance graphics when you're using a command that isn't supported by it. And I think we can wrap up our webinar with this. Unfortunately, we don't have more time. However, if there are any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat box, or go ahead and shoot us an email at support@ceratechinc.com, and we'd be more than happy to go ahead and answer those. And as I said, for our customers, please feel free again to email us at support@ceratechinc.com, and we can roll out the new license files and the new download files. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for watching this webinar. For any training or services questions, please contact us at the number on the screen or support@ceratechinc.com. We will be more than happy to assist you with whatever you may need. Have a great day.